it's 2 after, we'll go ahead and call the January 29th Marion County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. First order of business is roll call, so Nina Paquette.
Here.
Brad Gorsuch.
Present.
Will, present. Josh Weiser. Present. Delbert Lowe, absent. Dax Kennedy. Present. Keith Jost.
Yes.
Tracy Roberts is on, sorry. Chase Gann.
Here.
And David Muir.
Here.
All right.
And
Staff.
Here.
Russ Avery.
Here.
Sharon.
here.
Nina Carp.
Here. And also, I just wanted to announce that in the absence of the chairman, Vice Chair will be presiding over the meeting tonight. And, the at-large position is vacant pending legal review.
Thank you. Okay. In order of business would be to approve the last meeting minutes. Any questions, concerns on the minutes? If none, I'll take a motion for approving the meeting minutes.
Motion to accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
I abstained because I wasn't present.
All right. So moving on to swearing in the new members and reorganization of the board. And we are appointing, Brandy Smith has been appointed to the commission to serve for District 3.
So Randy, come out. Convenient. And then, if you'll repeat after, Lena's gonna administer you. Okay. And so if you'll just repeat after. Okay, say it. You can stand.
I, Brandy Smith, do solemnly swear or affirm that I support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Kansas, and faithfully discharge the duties of Marion County Planning Commission.
All right, we need to reorganize the board, so starting off, I'll take nominations for chair. We wanna, anybody wanna make a motion on nominating Josh to chair? Oh.
She
Sorry, you
seconded.
nominated.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, me and Fran seconded, so take a vote on Josh Weiser for chair. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nominations for vice chair.
What was
Unanimous.
Vice chair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, but I just make sure that's what's next.
I nominate Michael.
Okay. I'd second that.
All right, moved and seconded for myself to remain as vice chair. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So unanimous vote on that. Secretary, Karen, how's that, you guys have usually handled that, so just nominate.
generally,
The secretary is typically the recording secretary, which is staff, which is Sharon. If we want to nominate and elect a planning commission chair, they would simply have the duty of, if you were gone and Josh was gone, they would run it. It would be a third in line, if you will.
Okay,
But we don't
bylaws
need a
allow for
nomination,
that.
do we?
Huh?
We don't need a nomination.
Unless you just want to keep it the way it's been as having a recording secretary, the staff for Sharon.
you good with that? Yep. Okay. We need a vote on that or anything, or is that, okay, all those in favor of keeping the recording secretary as our secretary? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, with reorganizing the board now, for item 4, that falls to Josh to take over control. Yep, okay. Josh, it's all yours.
All right, we're moving on to text amendments, because we've already approved the minutes, correct?
yes.
Okay. So I guess before we start there, according to Kansas law, I have to ask on both the topics we have tonight, Article 19 for short-term rentals and Article 27, are there any conflicts of interest that need to be called out? Any? I do have one, I guess, Mr. Mueller, I do have one question to ask from Dickinson County. On Diamond Vista, are you still currently the liaison?
I do have these, none of these amendments affect this.
No wind turbines?
No, I have leases, but none of these amendments will affect current leases.
But we're talking about the whole county.
Yes, we are.
So, Russ, I would ask you for an opinion on that.
Right, this is a legislative matter. It doesn't have the same weight of conflict of interest as if we had a financial interest in a zoning application, for that matter.
Okay. So let's move on to Article 27, that's the first one. Sorry, Article 19 is the first one on the list here.
Josh,
So Article 19 was tabled from last time. If I remember correctly, did you have a copy of that? Did we get a copy of that? Did everybody get a copy? Okay. So did we have changes?
We basically, I basically put together from my notes of the December 4th meeting, 2 changes to those regulations. The first being on the first page, under subsection A. It's both, the text that has changed is bolded. We simply have the maximum number of transient guests occupying a short-term rental unit shall not exceed 8 persons. I bumped that up to 12 because we talked about the differentiation between short-term rentals in the bulk of the county versus those that are within the Lake Lot District, which seem to be the most prevalent and the most problematic. So we added that whole other part, section A, dealing with just the lot lake, and I capped that at from 8 persons to 6 persons. Understanding that through the conditional use process, if an applicant has a special location, or the location of the application is such to where it's a larger lot, has more room, then we can modify those standards as appropriate, but this provides a general initial cap. And the second change is on the 3rd page, the addition of sub-item P. It discusses parking. It requires now 2 off-street parking spaces at minimum for each short-term rental. If it offers more than 2 rooms for transient guests, then each additional room would require an additional parking space. And then we talk a little bit about paving standards. Paving does not have to be an asphalt or concrete paved surface. We are allowing what I define as a dustless surface, crushed concrete, similar aggregate asphalt millings and things of that nature. What we want to see is that these parking spaces are well defined and delineated on the property. And usually that's something as simple as railroad ties or something similar. So that's what I added, at least to take the discussion to the next step.
But P doesn't apply to the lake itself.
P applies to any and all short-term rentals.
Could you please speak louder?
Yes. So the question was whether or not those, the new condition P applied to the lake lot. It applies to not only the lake lot, but all short-term rental applications. They have to provide 2 parking spaces. If you're out on a 10-acre property, you're not gonna have a problem with that. If you're on lake lot, that's where we've seen creativity come into play.
But we're capping the lake at 2 bedrooms only for rent. Is that correct?
Six persons,
Yeah, but 2 bedrooms.
true.
So if somebody has an application on a 3-bedroom house, they can only utilize 2.
How do you regulate something like that in a
Well-
house that has more than 2 bedrooms?
We'll come to public comment here. What was your question?
That was my question, if that they're capping it at 2 bedrooms, even though it might be a 3-4 bedroom availability.
And if they have a 4-bedroom house and they have a larger lot where they can provide 4 parking spaces, and that's something that we can consider in the Lake Lot District and approve it as such.
As a
additional use.
Yeah.
Okay,
So all these short-term rentals will have a CUP attached to them. These are the basic default requirements of them. But that's your question points to the age-old question of enforcement. Yeah, enforcement in the United States of zoning regulations is not a proactive thing, it is reactionary. People call sheriff's department with complaints. She then will inspect the unit for compliance and either find them as necessary or find no fault or that they're in code compliance. They risk the loss of not only the CUP, but their certificate of occupancy to allow that extra use.
Sharon, we have an email that was requested to be read. Do you want to read that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So this was requested to be read at the planning commission meeting from Greg Wyatt. The Improvement District 2 would like Sharon and the zoning and planning committee member or a county commissioner to read this email all to hear at the January 29th zoning and planning meeting at Lake Hall. The Improvement District 2 would like any new homes, Airbnbs, and short-term rentals to cease inside the Improvement District for the time being. At the county lake, due to sewer concerns, issues on running over capacity levels at this time. The sewer system was designed in 1986 to take care of 60 homes with expansion in 20 years to 90 homes. This is a pressurized system and not a gravity flow system. Today we have 167 full-time residential homes, 60 seasonal homes, and 65 sewer hookups at the lake office, lake hall, and trailer park area. Total hookups to the system is 292, which is what the capacity it was designed for. We also have some creating garage apartments without proper permits. We do not cease adding more homes, Airbnbs, or short-term rentals. We are running the risk of a sewer break or sewage running into the lake. This becomes an environmental hazard and will cost the county hundreds of thousands of dollars to clean up, and will keep people from enjoying the lake until everything is cleaned up. We currently are changing out all check valves to each location of the lake. We're also looking for a grant which will allow us to improve the infrastructure of the sewer system. Until infrastructure is improved, we're asking to cease any more new homes, Airbnbs, and short-term rentals of any kind. So with that in mind, I guess my question is, do we want to consider the changes, adopting those, or do we want to consider potentially recommend a moratorium on short-term rentals?
those houses are only occupied partially, those VRBX. A full-time resident's gonna put more strain on that system than an occasional visitor. So that argument seems null and void.
I will say, I did talk to an inspector. He works for Marion, he doesn't work for the county, but I deal with him building houses. And I had asked him about the lake area, and the first thing he told me without any prompting was the sewer system. He had concerns over that, so.
It's an issue, no doubt, but temporary, I mean, those homeowners, they could sell it to a full-time resident.
Yeah.
So you're putting more strain on.
But in the
So
meantime, we're living here.
I understand.
They're living here. And if it's a moratorium for the time being, it just means for the time being, so
I know.
they can upgrade the sewer. Because it's a problem for all of us that they've been dealing with, and they are trying to
I get that.
rectify it. And
But in
it's
the
gonna-
meantime, it's a loss of revenue.
It would be a loss.
Tourism dollars that it brings in is a
And
lot of money.
And that could be. It also will affect everybody that lives here, and them eventually too.
I know.
I think there's two things here. There's one, we were asked to review the existing regulations, and then there is the sewer issue. And I think they're two separate issues. So, I think we should review the regulations, modify them how we will, and put that out for public comment, whatever. get a feeling on that. And then if we need to move to going over whatever needs to happen with the sewer system, then I think that's a separate issue. Okay.
So Russ, the sewer system, is that a land use issue, or is that just something inherent to the lake?
So we always talk about, that's a great question. And I'm gonna give you just my opinion. So we have the golden factors that we're all familiar with. That's the validation, the findings of fact, if you will, that underpins a recommendation one way or the other on a zoning application. One of those, and the golden factors initially held 9 different things to discuss. Not defining that's the only 9 set of criteria, but as a template. And one of those 9 criteria is impact on public infrastructure. All right? And we deal with this almost exclusively in counties with roads. Hey, this thing's gonna tear up these roads. It's a township road, it's, it's a minimum maintenance road, that's a whole different animal, but look, this road cannot handle 5 or 6 semi-tractor trailers coming up every day down this half-mile section. So that's something we can consider, saying we can approve your distribution, your business out here in the county, but we're gonna require you to work with the county or the township to improve this road. Maybe it needs more rock, maybe it's simple grading, what have you. In this case, and in city zoning cases, it's, do you have sewer and water capacity? Is this in a location that can be served? So here, we're kind of straddling that fence, because we have an improvement district, that's quasi-municipal sewer system. Not just an on-site sanitation code sewer system. So, I would contend that you can take into consideration, I would even go as far as to say that you should take into consideration the wastewater improvement district's concerns on that. To me, that's a very valid concern, certainly one that is envisioned as our responsibility to look at in a zoning case. Now, we're not talking about a zoning case, we're talking about the rules, but for all those reasons, I would say that that is certainly a valid concern to buy into the question of a moratorium. Clearly, that's the commissioner's, the county commissioner's concern, not ours. So take it either way. We could table this for a month and let the county commission decide on a moratorium or not. To Michael's point, we can still, they're valid on the books today. Tomorrow I can come in and pull a permit application for CUP. So we can still go ahead. At the end of the day, at the end of the moratorium, let's say they do enact a 2-year moratorium, it takes 18 months to build a new cell or whatever fixed capacity. Then we come back, we're probably not gonna change what's in this memo, right? We're still concerned about the size of the individual lots. These changes, I guess another way to put it is these changes in this memo go to the concerns of the actual density of short-term rentals in the county versus the Lake Lot District. The moratorium, the sewer issue, goes to whether or not any additional flow can be accepted at the plant. So they're kind of 2 separate things, I agree with that. We could go ahead and finish these things in anticipation of them getting back on board. There's nothing, additional sewer capacity is not gonna change, I don't feel, what's in these proposed amendments. We're still gonna look at capping the number of units and the number of bedrooms here at the Lake Lot, even if they had all the sewer capacity in the world, right? As a matter of fact, we were discussing these prior to the issue of sewerage. So sewer, I think that is a strong indication. If the Board of County Commissioners were to ask my opinion on that, I would say you should enact a moratorium and get at least a preliminary engineering study done, which the improvement district may have already, they may already be down that road quite a bit, I don't know.
Michael, did you have something in mind when you were talking about that initially?
Yeah, I do have, I was gonna wait, but now's as good a time as any. So one thing that I was gonna add was, you know, if we go through this, to add to the regulations, another check, if you will, was to propose that for all the areas that fall under an improvement district, a signed agreement from the improvement district has been reviewed when, as needed when applying for a CUP application for a short-term rental in these improvement district areas.
But the sewer goes way beyond short-term rentals. It goes to no new builds, period, so.
And I
But
think
would
that was
require-
addressed, yes, that was.
That would be addressed in that, because then they would have to, if they wanted to build new, right? They would also have to get inspection done from an improvement district.
I understand, but Mac's point is, you know, or not gonna try to paraphrase what he said, but if you have a unit that's currently being out here, been here for 25 years, it's been in the system, it's been in use, and then all of a sudden you wanna do a short-term rental, and they say, oh, we can't do a short-term rental because we got a sewer issue. Aren't they grandfathered into the sewer system?
Is there anyone here to talk about,
I-
that can give us any
Mr.
input?
Burnett, are you out here in the crap? There you are.
You need to open it up.
Yeah, we'll need to open up. So let's finish this. and public comment.
See, my concern there then is, does that bring down property values? Or it doesn't entice people from out of the area that are only gonna use it so many weeks out of the year to open it up for an income property?
I mean, that's a disclosure item. You know, if I was looking at a piece of property in the lake lot, I think it'd be somebody's responsibility to tell me that the sewer might not withstand.
I mean, they can drive down the prices, you know, it's gonna,
I mean,
It has
that's a
been-
real problem.
but it
Yeah.
definitely could, because it
Yeah.
hasn't been an issue yet.
You're right about that.
You can bring down the property values.
I mean, I agree with Brad in the fact that the house is already there. It's an assumption that the sewer is gonna take whatever the house gives. And And then back to his point, I mean, that goes to the commissioners as far as the moratorium. And at the very least, this here is more restrictive than the regulations that we have in place. And if somebody shows up tomorrow and we don't do anything today, then we're forced to go off the old rule. So, we've talked through it this far, I say we carry on.
Any other discussion from the members before I open it up for public comment?
Just one, so we have some units out, short-term rental units out there that are to the old, are they grandfathered into the old numbers?
Yes.
Even when they renew?
If they were to renew or for some reason went void when reapplied, then they would have to go through the process again.
But if it's just a straight.
Under the new rules,
But just a straight yearly renew, is it a yearly renewal?
the yearly renewal is just for licensing purposes.
So they
That's not gonna
maintain
change.
under the old,
They would be
CUP?
Yeah.
Okay,
Unless they sought to change something and would require an amendment, then they would lose that legal non-conforming status.
That's just per cup of applicant. So if they sell the house, that same person, a different person has to come up and apply for another cup.
No.
I think it goes with the land.
Yes, the zoning goes with the land. So if you have a short-term rental and you are selling it to me, I can buy your home and occupy it and rent it out on a short-term basis under the same requirements that you had placed on your CUP. Your CUP runs with the land, so I am inheriting that additional land use.
And also inheriting the restrictions of the annual registration.
And if I would buy your property with no intention of running it as a short-term rental, and I live there and then, for whatever reason, I can either withdraw that, or I can apply to have, I can go through and eliminate that CUP. Nobody really does that, but they're, failure to comply with any of those standards. If I were to change and remove parking or something like that, or any of the conditions that were saddled on you, then that would be a failure of to meet the requirements of the CUP, and then staff would pull that CUP, consider it null and void.
Is that disclosed to a person who buys it?
It-
Is that part of the, or they just find out?
I see title reports every week. That's a great question. Usually it's just easements and other encumbrances. So I don't know if a title company would put zoning on that, on your title report, your title commitment. Typically, there is a zoning section. Your property is zoned SF5 single family residential, period. This one could potentially have, this is zoned LL Lake Lot Edition with a CUP case number on it. I'm not sure what the level of detail any one particular title company would issue in a title report.
Okay, I'm gonna open up for public comment. We've got a lot of people here, so ask your questions or make your statements. When you do, please state your name, and we'll open it up now.
Josh, will we have a time limit on each speaker?
No more than 2 minutes.
Okay, so it would probably work best if they go to the front so that we can get those comments.
Okay. So, yes, please come to the front, state your name if you've got any comments or questions.
Hi, I'm Lori Stock. You want me to speak to you guys? So I just have a question. I wasn't in on the first, the meeting where you guys talked about what got us to this point today. And so what I kind of heard through the grapevine is that there's, is this tonight's plan is to decide whether you're gonna keep the RBOs going forward? Or is that gonna happen by the end of tonight?
What we're dealing with here tonight, ma'am, is just regulation changes. So we have a set of regulations, let's call it 10 or 12 different things, requirements. We're modifying some and adding an additional 1 or 2 conditions. So we are still changing just the regulation part of it, the requirements of having a short-term rental, not any, we don't have the power to decide on whether or not to institute a moratorium. That's at the
Okay.
governing body level.
That leaves this body and goes somewhere else for another meeting that we could or couldn't attend and talk. Okay, so, yeah, Dax and Brad, made incredible points. We have the VRBO, we rented out last year, I think, of course, was our second year. We served 20 families for a total of maybe on 3-day weekends, maybe 45 nights. So the sewer argument is just silly. I mean, let's do the math. If I say, oh, I can't have a VRBO anymore, well, I wish I could afford to own a lake house, but without having to rent it out, but I can't right now, so, I'm just gonna rent it, 20 weekends a year, which includes some hunting, it's not all summer. I'm actually shocked because, I would have thought it would have been busier in the summer, and that's okay, it's about every other weekend, and then we get some hunting and maybe, Thanksgiving, maybe Christmas, but then we also get a lot of weddings, a lot of funerals, that people are so grateful because they have some place to meet as a family and not have to drive to Hillsborough to stay at a hotel. When they find out about us and they didn't book us for their wedding, they're like, oh, it would have been so perfect. We had to drive there and get so many rooms. So basically, if it ever does go away, if that service goes away, we're not going to be able to provide it for people. We'll probably put our house on the market and a family will buy it. And then you'll have 6 or 8 people affecting the sewer system, year round. But, we try really hard to follow the rules, and we get the parking thing, and we'll move our parking to the back, so there's no questions about that. But I just wanted to clarify if there was a chance that this was, and also the other question would be, as a realtor, if I sell this property, and I have to disclose that there's a sewer problem? Okay, if I have to disclose that there's sewer problem, then I'll just need to know if I need to make sure that all the realtors going forward would know about that sewer problem.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And also, if anyone would like to speak, please make sure that you've signed in over on the table over there as well.
Okay, any other comments?
Hi, I'm Garth Mock, and I live at I own the house at 3 Back Bay Court. Is the reason to go from 8 to 6, which it sounds like I'm grandfathered in, is it because of the sewer? Is it because of the parking? Is it a?
Parking is the thing that got us here.
Okay, so, I understand that parking is an issue with a lot of the smaller properties. I went through the process, and I don't remember how much that cost, probably $700, $800, $900 that it costs to get registered and all that. And I'm trying to do everything right. I have a 2-bedroom home, 2 egresses, outside doors on both of the bedrooms, plenty of parking, extra lot, lots of things. As far as the sewer goes, I talked to Darren Neufeld, who seems to be just an expert on the sewer system, and he kind of explained how the sewer system starts at the kind of the far end near 170th and works its way counterclockwise across the lake. He was concerned about that first section because he said, you know, that was at the beginning, everything goes through a 2-inch line, but then as it goes around the lake, it goes to a 3-inch, a 4-inch, and then eventually a 6-inch. He said, the concern is that 2-inch. The rest of the lake, he felt like there wasn't an issue with, and even with that 2-inch, he said there wasn't really an issue with, that he saw with something bursting and getting to the lake. He just said that it's not as efficient, it's pumping too much water, there's more head pressure, which means the pumps don't last as long. But he didn't feel like there was an issue with a failure. And again, that was only on that portion of the lake. The rest of the lake, he said, was not an issue with capacity. So, and you should kind of visit with him because I'm telling you secondhand what he told me. So, but I feel like, you know, there are properties here, including mine, that are following all the rules, and, you know, I feel like case by case, you should look at those and allow the ones that are, you know, in compliance and can make those rules.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, last call.
I'm Denise Harper, and I run my mom's Airbnb, and we do it kind of super part-time, just, it kind of covers the expenses of her. It's just a small little Airbnb. But can you please clarify again, the sewer system was made for, I missed those numbers, 190?
60.
160?
No, 60 rooms.
Okay, so when did we grow to 290? Okay, well, I just wondered when it really became a problem. Was it prior, because we've been running 2 years, maybe 3? Was it prior to that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so I just needed clarification. And what, and again, just because I don't hear well, what you are proposing is the changes to make sure and have designated parkings, 2 for each Airbnb, for at least 2, but more if you have
Additional rooms.
additional rooms, 2 for each bedroom.
2 for the initial, 1 additional space for each additional room.
Okay. All
And
right.
this is respective to new CUPs, not existing CUPs.
Okay.
So like if you already have one, then you don't have to worry about this per se, unless you do a different CUP.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're closing public comment now. So, we're looking at the regulation changes. Anybody have a motion to,
And if we're considering moving forward with recommending these changes to the county commission, for them to do with, as they
Yeah.
said, they can certainly table it.
yeah,
Consider whether you wanted to add Michael's additional requirement as well.
and your additional requirement was a signed agreement from the district.
From the improvement district
Yes.
for every CUP application.
Okay.
It may be a situation where, again, the location along that sewer trunk line, there's probably a half a dozen different things that the sewer district can calculate as to whether a project would be acceptable or unacceptable. I think that would be maybe the best gate to keep open and closed for regulations if we don't have a moratorium. So then that's an extra hurdle. If an applicant can come in here and say, sewer district has no problems with our ability to sewer this property at this location for this number of bedrooms, what's wrong with them approving those CUPs? So it answers for each individual application the sewer question.
Okay. So I guess then, do we want to include that in this?
Yeah, so, or you just gave sewer as an example and CUP. Right? Is that what you, or,
No, I think he's adding.
Having an inspection done by the improvement district, if it meets their needs as a whole for the CUP application.
so you're talking all the improvement districts in the county?
Yeah.
I know Sharon, I'm on improvement district, and Sharon always calls me and asks, and we don't have formal signature, but there's always the ask.
Would you be opposed to that being,
No.
that I mean,
No. I'm just saying the communication is happening today in the case of each improvement district. It happens today per phone call.
I think he's just adding that because of the situation that's going on here, more or less. And obviously, it's not happening out there or another improvement district. That's been brought to our attention, so.
it gives it that other step. And
I'm
if
fine with it,
everything's
that's my
good,
question
it's a quick sign
is there
off.
other items that need to be covered, you know?
Well, who's each guy at the head of each improvement district, and who's to monitor their, what they want, or how they feel? I mean,
Well,
is there, if we're gonna include that in a zoning regulation, then we need some sort of guidelines. Because if the house is there presently, then it's assumed that the sewer has the capacity. So I would just hate to have, it just opens up a lot of room for, I'm not sure the word, but, the good old boy deal, If he's just against Airbnbs in the area, he could say, no, our sewer can't handle it. I don't know. I don't know. There's gotta be some sort of guidelines. It's not a, yeah, we can handle it. And if I think it's up to the county commissioners, if they wanna outlaw them in their moratorium, then that should be up to them.
Yeah, I think we can't put any more regulations on them.
Yeah.
I think we adopt these standards and
That's my opinion.
move forward.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adopt them?
I'll make that motion.
Motion
As
to
they are
accept them
written.
as they're written, right?
Yes, as they're written.
I'll second that.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second to adopt the regulations as they're written.
Recommended.
Recommended, sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor say, or against, say nay.
Okay.
Do we have one nay?
Two.
Two? Okay, who are the two? All right. Next item. Article 27.
Folks, there are some seats up front here still if you'd like to come and sit down. Got a lonely fellow sitting up here that could use some company.
Everybody should have a copy of Article 27 and the revisions that were recommended from the last meeting.
Did we get into Josh, this was an item that was tabled and we're picking this back.
So yeah, we did discuss this and tabled it last time to pick it up again. And we are focused on what we tabled, and we did not get to section 1-105, item 2, which were the setbacks.
And I'll just, a point of clarification on the memo and the Article 27. So that represents the initial proposed changes that we've seen here for the last few months, shown in red. The text shown in green was just a few rewording of certain sections that changed during the December 4th meeting. And then the other task was the mapping of the setbacks to give a visual illustration of what setbacks subsection 2 would require, or would look like compared to the existing regulations. So if you've had a chance to look at the majority of Article 27, the red and the green, and have any questions, we can certainly address those. Otherwise, I think, as Josh said, I think we're focused on that one section on setbacks.
So we went through this last time, and I thought we somewhat had agreement.
Yep, we did. We whipped that horse.
Good verbiage.
So we're just focusing, as we all agreed last time, we're just focused on what, if you read the minutes, that's what we're focused on.
Focus on the
Good point,
setbacks.
Brad.
But still buckle up, it might be a ride. All right, so we want to start with number 2A and just work down the list of setbacks.
You're the chair.
Well, all right.
We started through the setbacks, and then we gave Russ an action to do a pictorial. Because when you look at single setbacks, it really doesn't tell the whole story. It's when you take the cumulative effect of all the setbacks and overlay it onto a map. So I don't know if we'll gain any traction going to individual setbacks, because the pictures tell you the story of the overlayment of all the different setbacks. So you're the boss, so you can decide how you want to go, but I think we need to, I'd like to lead in with what Russ did, myself.
Because, yeah, adjustment's not on what we're seeing in the limited.
Well, that's Strasburg Cemetery, yeah.
And church. So,
Yeah, 230th,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that one wasn't even,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah, and I turned that into,
Yeah, that.
Brad got me in trouble.
That
I
point
enjoyed
was
it too, by the
mentioned,
way.
there was another, there's
Hard to
also
catch.
Strasburg Cemetery,
Interesting.
right, in this area.
it wipes that out, the lake and everything.
I can just give you a quick little brief on how these maps were put together. So this is the Marion County GIS base map that we always use, that shows all the parcels and things of that nature. GIS data also shows the incorporated city limits and things of that nature. So as far as the setbacks from road rights-of-way, this map assumes that most of the section line roads in the county are going to be 60-foot right away, 30-foot half-street right away. So to deal with that, 1320, I actually offset it 1360 to account for the additional right of way in the map. As we discussed in December, such things as some of the more natural features, setbacks from wetlands, obviously setbacks from participating versus non-participating, you don't know until you see their development plan. The National Wetlands Inventory, to determine whether or not, so there are certainly maps available of, through that website, the USFWS website for wetlands inventory. But we establish wetlands, we establish them as wetlands to be protected through an environmental study. So a company coming in for wind development would then have to provide an environmental study report showing and mapping those locations and then offset them from those locations. Otherwise, pretty much every stream bed and every farm pond is located in that inventory, not necessarily as a wetlands until they're determined by a study. So that's, I think we were all in agreement that the non-participating properties and these wetlands, it'd be difficult to show on a map like this. If we simply utilize the National Wetlands Inventory, everything that's downloadable, all of their data, it's just a blue map. Because again, they are taking literally every small creek in the county and considering it as a forested wetland, when it's probably not. So,
Hey Russ?
Yes, sir.
Did you by chance calculate how much, based off of this one with all the blue on it and stuff, how much is available for WEX?
the fact that I graduated from high school with 4th grade math skills, the answer to that's no. I'll be the first person to admit that. There are ways to calculate it.
I did a rough calculation.
But there are certain ways to calculate it.
But
through GIS, I'm not that smart.
You don't need to get scientific, it's pretty simple to calculate. You can just look and say the setbacks and what they do. So based off of the red there, is all you're really potentially available. And then when you subtract the setbacks, you come up with a number.
And since you asked Sharon to get me fired because I didn't put in your cemetery, this GIS base map of the county has a column in it which the appraisers use to value or for your tax bill. And it has this LBCS codes, land-based coding system, tells you whether you're a church, a cemetery, a business, an industrial business, farmhouse, agricultural land without a farm. So what I did, and really the only way to map something like this, again without a specific wind turbine field map, I went in and, what is it, the darker blue radii are based on the codes that those, so your cemetery that was missed isn't being taxed as a cemetery.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's, there's 2 codes. One
Not
for
my
churches
cemetery, I just.
and one for cemeteries. It sounds like you want it to be my cemetery.
Dax cemetery.
So that's the reason that
Okay.
relied on the fact of how it's classified under the county tax system. So every property that's being taxed as a cemetery or church shows up in the darker blue.
Russ, would you want to explain where the Flint Hills moratorium area is?
I always just roughshot it east of 77.
So,
I don't know if that is exactly right, but yeah, so you can kind of make out if you squint where 77 runs.
And south of Highway 50.
Okay. Well, to get through this,
I could try to show that in future maps if you'd like.
let's see how far we get to that.
hopefully we can.
To get through it, we're gonna have to look at each one anyway. I understand they're all cumulative, but we're gonna have to work through each one.
I would like to make a statement. I did a calculation and it comes up that, this map right here leaves 3% of the, Marion County available to wind farms. Yeah, there's some white on here, but that white is bordered by setbacks on the road, so it's really around 2.6% available. So, and the 2.6 you can just round down and just say 0% available, because 2.6 is not gonna do any good, so. This basically zeroes out any potential area to do a wind farm.
Let's work through 'em. Let's just start with A and work down the list there. So no turbines shall be located closer than a greater 1,320 feet or 2.5 times the total height of the turbine from any public right-of-way, measured from the nearest edge of the right-of-way.
And you're reading the new proposed, not the existing.
I'm reading the new proposal.
Okay.
Yes. To be clear. I did a little bit of research. One of the things that I found, the evacuation zone in general in the industry is about 1,640 feet if there's a fire in the nacelle. So where does that's something to consider in this discussion, and all of this is minimums. Because if there are fires, they are gonna evacuate that area. And that's just a general number that I found, so. What are we thinking here on A?
And what's our current at?
So currently, we have several, we have basically 4 setbacks. We have a 550-foot setback off of the road right-of-way. We have the same 550 from railroads. I believe it is 1,000 feet from non-participating properties, and it's like 550 from residential structures.
And it's that non-participating, is that property line?
Yes. Let's just get, let's get tight here. So, 27-105, 2, on the existing regulations, no turbines shall be located closer than 500 feet from public roads or railroads measuring from the nearest edge of the right-of-way or public road easement, for the total height of the turbine plus 50 feet, whichever is greater. No turbines shall be located closer than 1,000 feet from property lines of any property not included in the CUP, or the total height of the turbine plus 50 feet, which is ever greater. No turbine shall be located closer than 1,500 feet from an existing non-participating residential structure. For a participating residential structure, the turbine shall be located no closer than the total height of the turbine plus 50 feet. Turbine locations for other buildings on participating land shall be determined jointly by the WEX developer and the participating landowner. So they have to stay 550 away from a participating home, 1,500 feet from a non-participating home, and then 1,000 feet from properties not included in the CUP or non-participating properties.
Okay.
Okay. So on A, we're talking the right-of-way on any public right-of-way, 1,320 feet, or 2.5 times the total height of the turbine.
And what's the height of the turbines? They're what?
500, and I did a little bit of research. It looks like Orsted is starting to install 700 to 1,100 foot turbines now. They just put one live in Taiwan with 250 around 800 foot.
Can you say that again louder?
Looking at some research from Orsted on current installs, they just put one live in Taiwan in January of this year at 250 meters of farm. So that's around roughly 800 feet. So they're getting taller.
They were supposed to be getting smaller.
And Russ, what's the FAA rate on height?
Over 500 feet requires additional lighting.
I think it's what, 150 or 200 to have inquiry into the FAA, but then for towers
So what are we thinking on A? 1,320 feet or 2.5 times the height is the current proposal.
Would that cover then, if they come in at 11, whatever you said, that what the maximum height?
Yeah, that would be caught by the 2.5 times,
Yeah.
Yeah.
whichever's greater.
Okay.
Comment.
Yeah, we have
Stable.
an 800-foot turbine, that's a half a mile setback, more or less.
Yeah. So yeah, the 2.5 times would come into play there.
Yeah, which is why there's the dual standard.
Yeah. Mike, you were gonna say something?
Well, I was just gonna say, I think, just from looking at these others, when you're looking at just a road, say there's no one else living on the road, on the main road, or whatever, I guess I have a hard time with that distance. I would feel better with more or less the tower height plus 50 or whatever for fall distance to protection, but that's my own personal opinion on that.
Okay, I agree with you, and I'd say that that 1320 should be only applicable to divided highways, not county roads.
What about ice road? On a rural road, I could see the divided highways might become a safety issue.
So then do you need to break that out into a separate one and have one specifying one for highways and one specifying one for more rural roads? That, I mean, there's a lot of unmaintained unmaintained rural roads that no one lives on and no one's close to, that could totally house a turbine on farmland out there that people would be interested in, that you can go both ways. I can see both sides of the picture.
That would need to be different then, because this says any public roads.
Right, you would have to break it out and put a
Yeah,
separate.
we can change all the verbs,
Yeah.
which is, I think, what we're gonna do.
State or federal highways, section line roads, other public roadways. That's two
Yeah.
And it addresses both, so you could change the A to be the state highways,
Yep.
and then you can move and make another one for rural roads.
I think that's good.
Weren't we just talking about trying to not have so much regulation in the previous one?
Well,
I mean, that was your
hey,
decision.
I'd get rid of all this and just keep it the way it is.
Just like it is and just pass it?
No, not these new ones, that's, what are you messing with?
But that's what we're talking about though.
I know, so we're gonna change it.
Just keep adding more regulation to it then?
We'll make it so it's not a death sentence.
Well, I don't think it's a death sentence.
It is.
just that
It's a death
it
sentence.
would be, just how they have to be regulated in the county. It was gonna be different, you're just saying it's gonna be different for every public road. If we do that. That's adding different regulation for every single road.
It's just a safety.
We're gonna end up
Could
having, to break out every one of these on the setbacks, because if we take them as they are and we don't go through them, you might
I
as well.
thought we were only tending to,
On setbacks,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm just saying.
So on A, if we break this to rural and then state or federal highway, what are we thinking on rural?
I would do whatever is, I guess, more or less existing, but we need to make it, if they are making them taller, so then we need to make it basically tower height plus 50 or tower height plus 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to give tower height at a minimum.
So that way it kind of broadens the spectrum, so any new ones that are put in, it covers them too.
Go ahead.
I might just interject something real quick as we're having this discussion. We could cap
No.
any turbine's height Yes, you may be rolling out Gen 7 wind turbines at 800 feet. They're just not gonna go in our county. So we could cap them at a 500-foot tip to base height to avoid that.
I think that's a good idea.
So we're not entertaining what the future holds, taller than what we have to deal with today.
What do we think there?
That makes sense to me.
What's the tallest one in the county now?
499 feet.
Who measured it?
I dropped it.
It in here with the stamp that I don't have.
They should.
So capping height at 500 feet.
50 base. And say plus 50 for the setback for rural roads. Yep. Yeah, 5.
And what about state and federal highway on that? Do we,
I think that 1360 is more than. I think that's a good call.
the 13, you're saying the 1320?
1320, yeah, quarter mile off of private highways.
Okay. What do you think of that?
So the state or federal highways, state or federal. I don't know, do we have any slides?
Already in the Flinthouse moratorium, so.
We're not able to hear.
They just said, height plus 50 on rural roads, 500-foot cap height on the turbine, and 1,320 feet, or 2.5 times the total height. Well, I guess that's already included if we got a 500-foot cap. 1,320 off state and federal highways.
Okay. Well, I'll move to B. Everybody good with A?
Yep.
And we will, just for the record for folks, I will open it up for public comment before we take a vote. We're gonna get through these, and then I'll open it up. Okay, B, no turbine shall be located closer than the greater of 1,760 feet or 3.5 times the total height of the turbine from any participating residential structure.
Does the participating landowner still have the right to?
The ability to put that in there, I think we have to look at the safety though.
I didn't hear what you said. I didn't hear what you're saying.
Does the participating landowner have the right to go less than that?
I don't think that they should have the right to waive the county set in place. I don't think that's the landowner's.
So the landowner has no rights.
Well, the landowners don't have rights with turbines anyway, so in that sort of defeats the purpose. But letting a landowner dictate what the county has set in place, I don't think that's right.
I think we also have to think about the long term there. If any of us sign a wind lease, we're not gonna be alive to see the end of it most likely, as long as they are. Somebody else is going to be there at that place at some point in time. Looking at the safety factor, again, you have a fire. I come back to that, the research I'm looking at, fire in the nacelle seems to be the worst case scenario in evacuation area. And if we're less than at least the 1640, now you're evacuating a house for a fire if it's in that turbine.
Currently, we're at 1,500.
From a participating, I think.
What is the participating?
Total height plus 50 for participating.
Yeah. Participating
550.
residential structure would be 550 foot.
Well, you know, the participating people are happy with it, why would we changing it? I don't get that. People people that have,
At that point, they're kind of assuming the liability and the risk.
Yeah.
they bought into it.
There's a valid point of concern for later down the road when that property does go up for sale, but
That's taken into the account for the value of the property.
the
That's
value
how
of the
you deal
property,
with that.
so, yeah.
What are we thinking? Do you wanna? Someone head shaking no?
I think that that landowner assumes the responsibility and they're putting themselves in that position, so far be it from us to regulate it.
Yeah, it's not our job to regulate people's property to the point they can't use it. If they want wind turbines, they should have the opportunity.
Do the wind turbine people take any of that responsibility? It's
I
not
think
the
a lot of
homeowners,
that's done
right?
on the proposed, when they do the proposed, submittal of,
Site plan.
yeah. They would have to look at all of that. This would be the minimum setbacks that they would have to follow, and then they would have their site plan that they would go through to determine where is feasible on that property.
I think a participating landowner with his own house, if he's willing to tolerate it within the 550 foot of his house on his place, that's
More power to him.
his
Wrong.
decision.
Is that what we get, wanna go with, the height plus 50 from a participating?
I think that's what it needs to be. What's that?
Yep.
And that's just the residential, no outbuildings.
That's the
Residential.
participating residential
Yeah,
structure.
participating.
but not there like outbuildings or something if you had.
Well, that would be a
Residential
structure,
Okay.
yeah.
So if they had an accessory apartment, then that would trigger it, but, yeah.
So height plus 50,
So
or height plus 100?
So 500, yeah, 550.
So we said height plus 50, right? Okay.
All right. So we're ready to move on from B and go to C. All right. C, no turbine should be located closer than the greater of 2,750 feet or 5.5 times the total height from any non-participating residential structure.
Russ, what's the drawing?
1,500 feet
Yeah.
from an existing non-participating residential structure, it's 1,500 feet.
I guess this is one where I think that it at least, at minimum, needs to be the evacuation danger zone, so at least the 1640 plus something. I'm not quite sure that the 2750 or 5.5 times is the right number.
I'm good with the 1640 myself.
Yep. So we gotta consider,
But these are non-participating.
These are non-participating.
Non-participating.
Yeah, non-participating.
So the
resident.
people who don't want them, which is, I understand, and it's, maybe that's where that one on the previous one on B, that 1760 is a better number in that place.
I don't know how the 1760 was derived, so I really don't know how to speak to it. Like, the 1640 was something that was, you guys.
That's the minimum.
That's what I was
1640 would be the
That's what I
minimum
was saying.
evacuation.
evacuation zones.
So,
So with the non-participating, we gotta think about the multiple aspects. You gotta think about the economic aspect. It's gonna reduce property values. It's gonna have an impact on folks, the non-participating individuals there. Health, low frequency noise is known as health issues, and these do produce low frequency noise. have some folks that still wanna look at them, and we have to respect that as well. Half a mile to me is the minimum. Especially when you start considering throw zones for ice, the noise can travel a great distance, low frequency. Anything between 20 and 200 megahertz will travel a long distance.
What is the throw zone for ice?
You got a couple of
It
comments
could be
on that.
2,400 feet
2,400 feet.
on a 600-foot tower, so. And that depends on the wind.
On a
that's gonna
600
happen.
foot.
Yeah.
We won't allow that.
You're still gonna get easily 2,000 feet
Okay.
road zone. On that, they have a calculation, I remember it's Seaford calculation, I have a copy of it. But I think half a mile is the minimum, except for non-participating.
Residents?
But
You're referring to residents?
from the non-participating residents, yes, on C. The other thing to consider there, the wind company does have a friendly neighbor program. They can, if they wanna get it closer to a non-participating, as close as a participating, they can put up the money and negotiate with those folks.
So it would be up to them to go out and ask them then, if they, and that would be okay, even though we have this written.
Well, at that point, they would
So they
be.
become a participating.
Yeah, at that point, they would be
Okay.
participating.
It changes the trajectory of who they are, I guess, yes.
Yeah.
So just leave that one then, if that's an option for, if the wind wants them to be there, or I mean, if they want it, that's up to them to go and find that business.
Negotiate.
Yeah,
So leave the 2750, or go with
Yes.
the 16,
leave the
2750.
and then just do it 5.5 times, since we're capping.
If we cap it
Yeah.
at 500 feet, then. Okay, C, are we good to move on? Leaving it at 2750, we have the cap at 500.
Might one would just do the half mile, like 2750.
That's what
Half mile.
Why, he's saying why not go with 2640
Yeah.
versus 2750? I agree. 2750, and let's just go with half mile, 2640.
Yeah, 2640.
What do we think? I'm looking for consensus.
Which one was it?
2640 on C.
Okay. D, no turbine shall be located closer than the greater of 1,760 feet or 3.5 times the total height from any non-participating property line.
What's the current?
We don't have it from a non-participating property line, we have it to a non-participating residential structure of 1,500.
Well, we actually have 1,000 feet from property lines not included in the CUP, which would be a non-participating. Right?
Correct.
2 years ago.
Any objections on 1760?
I mean, I think if we're already at 1,000, I don't,
I recommend leaving it at 1,000.
leaving it at 1,000.
My only problem with that would be is if it's the evacuation zone, well, I didn't know nothing about that. But the evacuation zone would be my only concern about that.
Yeah.
But it's a property line, we're not worried about residential, we've already covered
Yeah,
the
but what if
residential.
I'm working on the fence or somebody's working on their fence?
Yeah.
I'm gonna run my cow anyway, but.
What if they wanna build something later?
Yeah, I don't
Now
know.
Now
I'm
they
just-
can't because they're in that evacuation zone.
And the other thing that I just wanna preface too is just based on the constituents in my district that I've heard. You know, this is,
I will tell you, the constituents in my district, I've heard a lot pushing against the wind farms. 20-1 margin, easy. So do we wanna leave it at 1760?
I don't see why it would be higher than a non-participating residential structure. That doesn't, to me, it doesn't make any sense.
Wait a minute.
That wouldn't be.
Structure.
It's not,
26.
it's not higher, we're talking.
2640 for non-participating residential, okay. Okay. Sorry.
So would we be better off just going down to, if that's the concern is our evacuation zone, is just going down to the evacuation zone where at least the minimum distance and go to the 1640, so we're at the evacuation zone set. And take out, again, take out the 3.5 times because we're already capped.
Yeah, I think at least the evacuation zone protects the property owner in that event.
Unless you say, like, they go out and they do the buddy system and they get signed up, and in which case,
Because if they,
that's gonna change.
if we put it within 1,000 feet of the property line and there's a fire, and they've got a structure there, they're working on the fence, they're gonna be impacted by the evacuation zone. If they're non-participating.
The evacuation zone is just that they evacuate everyone in that circle, right?
1647.
In the event of the
Then it's self-funded.
the cell fire. Or
Yeah.
hydraulic stuff.
Yep.
I just don't understand that one.
So say you got property, you're a non-participating individual. My house is up here, my fence line goes back there, and then 5 years down the road, I decide to put a shed or a barn in up there, or a tiny house. And I've got my parents living out there, and then this fire catches, now they've gotta be evacuated, and can't get into their place because of the fire on the street.
But you're knowingly building there.
You know, I'm a non-participating,
Turbines are right there.
but for an outside of the evacuation zone, and we don't have to worry about that.
That would cover everything.
Yeah, that would cover it. So do we wanna go at 1760 or 1640?
I'd sooner go to the 1640.
So we have people that really would like the opportunity to have wind turbines.
We do.
I'm sure, and there's no doubt, there's people that signed up. And so when we start making all of these setbacks so large, you're taking away land use for people that own their property and wanna have it. I understand a lot of people don't wanna have it, but we've gotta put our hat on both ways. It says we protect both sides of the equation.
So likewise, with the non-participating residential structure, the wind company can negotiate with that property owner and make them a participating property owner. That option still exists here.
So even if we leave it at 1760, the wind has that option to come in and do whatever they want to with that person. South, whatever.
Yeah, why wouldn't, if they're gonna do it on a non-participating residential structure, why wouldn't they be able to do it on a non-participating property? It'd be the same situation.
I think the existing 1,000 is plenty sufficient. Cause it the 2640 is already in place for the residential.
We're still not, with that, we're still not protecting that property.
I mean, it's more protecting than me and you driving down the road, you know, in the event that something happens at 550 feet away.
So we're gonna,
had setbacks in place for how many years now? On these right here, 1,000.
8 years maybe?
Yeah.
We've made different amendments throughout the past 8 years for different sections, typically dealing with permitting issues.
I think the 1,000,
2018, and then 1,000 came in.
2 or 3 years.
Why did we only have 5 when we got ours?
Do we know what, like, if the wind people can come in and renegotiate that with that non-participating owner, the property line, do we know how many people have signed on to that? After we've set this, standards, do we know any of that?
They'd have to come in with that in their conceptual site plan.
The landowners,
No, the,
Yeah,
the
the developer.
applicant.
okay,
Yeah.
and we don't know what has happened then with that.
What do you mean?
I don't think any of that has happened with the existing performance facilities. But
I think there was a push for one of those wind companies, did buy some people.
That's what I mean.
I don't
How
think
do
there's
we-
any data on it.
Yeah, I mean,
I know it's happening.
but that's always an option then.
I mean, the way you're talking about structuring this, that would almost have to come in with their conditional use application development plan. So they would have to have those property owners' agreements already
they'll come in with the
with
staff
their
of 15.
conceptual
Yeah,
site plan.
they won't tell us how they got the participation, but that's like a private deal between those two parties.
Before Sharon sees the application.
Right.
So afterwards, though, for the non-participating, whatever, the property line or the residential structure, do we know how many then have been,
Built.
changed their mind? Yeah, afterwards.
Like how many structures have been built after the fact, after the wind turbines were already in
No.
Yeah,
place?
or, yeah.
Or, no, there's no, once the wind turbine is there, then the property owner has the right to build closer if they want to.
Yeah.
And then there's really no negotiating that with the developer.
But we
Wind
don't
farm.
have any idea what the negotiations were after they said, no, we don't want to, and then maybe they were approached and changed their mind.
We don't get into those negotiations. That's not part of it.
That's all up to the greedy American.
All of
We all
that
got bills to pay
information-
now, so.
All of that information is redacted from any records before I received it.
But that's still an option. I mean, they have that option. If we set these standards here, that option is, the wind people have that option to approach them, correct? At any time, so.
They determine, a developer / applicant has the power, are the only people with the power to determine who are participating owners and who are non-participating. We don't do that.
But, they can do that. They can approach them, even though we've set these standards and they don't.
Well, I would
But-
suggest adding some language, so when we get through A through H, so on the next page, 27-3, we have a sentence that starts, for the purpose of the above requirements, blank, blank, blank. So in that paragraph, I would suggest adding language to the effect that if an applicant / developer obtains a non-participating, or gets non-participating property owner's consent, then they shall be considered a participating property owner. We want that clarified. That's what gives us the ability to switch between the setbacks.
You're building a framework for what a developer, as long as wind energy is not prohibited within the county, you're giving a framework for what a developer can expect right off the get-go. That's what we're doing here.
Right.
And
That's-
then,
I think that's what we should do, is make it so these are the things that they need to do to put one in versus by regulations.
Yeah, well, that's not what that is. setting standards for them
Yeah.
to,
I'd like to recommend 1320.
On D,
1320 on D. We're at 1,000, we basically split the difference, 1760, go with 1320. If people can live with that.
I would propose 1640 from a liability perspective.
We're at 1,000 down, we accepted that liability for 8 years.
So you have more to it.
No, we're not adding, we're subtracting liability. 1320. I think back, one at 1,000, we heard 16, we split the difference. We heard 2640, split the difference, say 1320, and see if everyone can live with it. There's no good answers to any of this, you guys, gals.
I will say from a business perspective, if you have 1640 and I'm a non-participating landowner, I have more leverage over that potential win. They'd pay me more to become a participating.
Well, and we are all residents of the county.
Right.
We gotta look at both sides of this too.
I just threw something on the table.
what'd you say, Josh? 1640?
I suggested 1640.
And Brad said 1320.
Yeah.
So a quarter or half? Or no,
A
you're
quarter.
saying 1320 to 1640?
Yeah.
1640 would be the fire danger evacuation line.
Evacuation.
That's where that number come from.
So maybe, yeah. So do you wanna determine, I mean, does everyone wanna say what you think and then
Yep.
maybe?
Okay, I said 1320.
I'm 1640 for the evacuation. 1640.
I'm at 1,000 too.
Looks like 1321. Add those up, you got
we
it.
can circle back to it on the motion when we get there.
What'd you say, Russ?
We can always circle back to that when we make a motion, whoever makes the motion, and let it.
I say we just hash it out. Let's get her done.
Yeah.
Let's get it done, I agree.
Yeah.
I was at 1,000, but I moved up and compromised to 1320.
Okay,
Who
So,
all voted 1640 or who all
Josh.
mentioned 1640?
what did, you said 1640,
I said 1640.
Brad?
1,000. Since you took me off my compromise.
Okay,
1,000.
1640.
1640.
1640.
1640.
1640.
What's the average of that?
I
Oh,
lose.
that means 15, 15, 17.
I take my losses.
now we've got 1640, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, what's that
6.
average? You get that average in there.
6 times and 1,000 3 times,
So we going with 1640?
Yep.
Okay. All right. We still got a few more folks, so hang on. E, no turbine shall be located closer than the greater 1,320 feet or 2.5 times total height of the turbine of the nearest edge of any wetland designated on the current version of the USFSWS National Wetlands Inventory. So Russ, go back to what you were saying earlier about the wetlands.
Wetlands are determined by a site-specific study, so by the quarter section, I wanna figure out where I wanna fill, looks like it's marshy and potentially have wetlands on it, I'll hire an environmental scientist. Sometimes they're appointed by geotechnical firms, sometimes by engineering firms, but they can be their own standalone environmental scientists who go out there and they will locate the boundary of the wetland and determine it on a survey. Then they'll go on that same inventory spreadsheet that has pretty much all probable or likely areas that could be one of the 3 designations of a wetland. They can then go back and say, That stream bed is shown on the map, but it is not wetlands. We've determined it's not wetlands. So it would be as determined by an environmental assessment, a wetlands environmental assessment.
Do federal guidelines, are there any federal guidelines?
I don't think that they're a quarter mile. They typically don't have a setback from them. It's typically flows into them. They care about what flows into a wetlands basin, and they care about the destruction of wetlands. So that's where certain counties, if they have enough wetlands and development within wetlands. We deal with wetlands all the time in Sedgwick County. We have 3 licensed facilities to where if I have an acre of wetlands right where my housing development's going, I can offset that 1 acre of wetlands, I can destroy it, and then pay a company to take that 1 acre of wetlands and develop 3 acres of wetlands in this, kind of like a compensatory wetlands. Not every place has that because, quite frankly, smart developers would go out there with a grader and fill that wetlands in before even filing for a building permit. But that's generally how that works. There's really, not to say that there shouldn't be a setback from the wetlands, but usually what we do is either remove the wetlands from the site or encapsulate it within what we call an easement or a reserve area on a plat, on a subdivision plat.
Okay. So the proposal is 1,320 feet or 2.5 times the turbine height, which caps out at 5 miles.
Currently, we do not have any setbacks. Is that correct?
Not from wetlands.
They cannot impact them. They can't put a turbine in the
So
building.
then why are we putting the number on it?
Huh?
Why are we putting the number in there?
We would have the ability to. There are certain jurisdictions that protect their certain locations across America protect their wetlands because they have more of them or more of a need for them or they're harder to establish, et cetera. So there are different, it's a local jurisdiction.
What, to Brad's point, what prevents them from going in a wetland area today in Marion County?
You can't have a footprint, you can't build within that wetland delineation.
And you can't impact.
Well, you kinda can and you kinda can't. It's like FEMA, the floodplain. Sedgwick County, 70% of Sedgwick County is in the floodplain. We remove that stuff every day. It's just a process that they have to go through. And Sharon has been on the ground dealing with those impacts directly. So she can probably speak better than I can on that. But yes, there's the ability to remediate.
BMPs, I mean, there are different things that they can use to lessen the impacts.
But there's, I guess my question is, somebody wanted to put a turbine or anything in a wetland today, they could go in and do it in Marion County?
If they receive the permits and if we had some sort of compensatory relocation requirement, then they would have to do that, or they would have to pay. They would write a big check to somebody to offset the impact. Same thing with the floodplain. They can place those turbines in the floodplain. They need FEMA's approval, and so they go through a FEMA, and they'll get a LOMA R or a LOMA F, I'm sorry, that shows that they have appropriately filled and impacted that location for those turbine footings.
And the authority for that is at the county level, not the federal level.
State level.
And potentially at the federal level.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those issues are also touched on in item 13. I don't know if you wanna jump ahead right now, but
Yeah, I remember talking about it. Do we have any wetlands delineated in Marion County as it stands? Do we know that?
Oh, there's certainly a lot that's on the map. Whether they've actually been delineated through a study, I can't answer that. Probably.
typically the developer does that already because they're required to have environmental impact studies prior to even submission, so then those will be delineated on their plans.
Do they make everybody aware of what they find in that environmental study?
Like the wet.
How do we find out what that environmental study says?
It gets submitted as part of their application. So if I'm an
Yeah.
environmental scientist I'm going to go out there and delineate the wetlands. I'm gonna write you about a 10 to 12 page report. I'm gonna spiral bind it, and I'm gonna send it to Sharon as part of my application package.
Okay. And then Sharon buys more bookshelves for my office. Keep-
So, what do the numbers mean on this? If it's gonna be a study by someone, why would we put the number?
Well, the study is to determine what part of Marion County is a delineated wetland. And then from that, let's say it's a 5 acre little swampy area.
Yeah.
They'll
If they stay
delineate
out of it.
that, they'll survey that out. That'll go into what we call a shape file. That'll get dumped into their GIS software. That'll get mapped when they map their turbine field. So it's at our discretion as to whether or not Marion County wishes to protect its wetlands and other sensitive environmental areas through a setback.
So considering any shed that comes off of those blades getting into the water supply would be one of the concerns I would have.
I can't, sorry, I can't hear you.
Okay, folks, we'll have public comment, but please keep it down so we can get through this. So my concern is, the shedding from the blades, what kind of contamination gets in the water and flows downstream. Would be the driver for any setbacks. So what are we thinking? Keep it at 1320 or do we wanna let the study?
Leave it there.
What,
We
okay.
don't know at this point.
What is it
correct?
currently?
We don't have a setback from the wetland.
Why we need setback?
Yeah.
It's you're either in the wetlands or you're not. You're either in the floodplain or you're not, right now. So I think that's what Josh is getting at. Do you wanna protect it further than that? Do you wanna go outside of that? Here's the delineation. Do you wanna have a buffer around that or not? I think is
Yeah.
what he's getting at, so.
Good as it is.
So what do you, at this end of the table, think?
Yeah, this end of the table, and what are you guys thinking? I guess the question I would pose is, do we have a buffer or no buffer? Today, we have no buffer.
I think we need a buffer.
I agree.
The exact amount, I don't know.
I'd say at least tower height. Tower height of plus 50, because then at minimum,
Limit
you
that.
have a buffer of, in the event that say it falls over, it does not fall over and land in the wetlands.
550.
550, yep.
550?
Chase, you good with that?
I'd go with that, and that's just based on, I do know that was one of the concerns that I heard a lot about. Just
550, are you happy?
I'm happy.
Okay.
Brandy, you're gonna say something.
I think it should be more than 550. But I can stand alone, I'm okay.
I'll agree with you, but
550.
I think we gotta go with 550 based on our last discussion too. All right. The next one, letter F. No turbines shall be located closer than 15,840 feet from any incorporated city limits, public park, public hunting area, church, school, airport, or cemetery. I would propose an addition, if we're gonna include airport in there, that we also include airfield. Because we do have registered airfields that are not airports, and I don't know, Russ, I would look for your guidance on that if there's a difference.
It's worth clarifying it. It's a simple interpretation, any airstrip that's, you know, grass airstrips aren't regulated by the FAA, but they are geographically registered, so you can find them on the, so yeah, any registered airport or airstrip.
I agree. That needs to be. But I guess I have a bit of a problem looking at this map when you take in the cemeteries you take in all the rural cemeteries that are either registered just single-family cemeteries or whatever that are, you know, just being maintained, not necessarily being used to bury anybody new. I have a bit of a problem with all of those incorporated. That distance, that takes out a huge part of the county. And with that in there and these other setbacks, to Brad's point, we go back to basically zero.
No, we're at 0 if you include those.
Yeah.
So do we wanna, there's a lot of, components to this one. We have incorporated cities, we have airfields, we have cemeteries. Do we wanna take those one by one with the number 15,840 feet in mind and say yes or no?
15,480 or 840 is just putting a 3-mile ring around everything in the county, basically.
Yes.
And you can see the effect on here. So I guess I don't understand how we set up a number of 15,840.
I mean, and I guess what's to say that, what's to determine the public hunting area, because I mean, and that's,
Yeah, is that
Yeah, what is
walk-in
it?
hunting? Because
Yeah.
somebody that's a non-participant can sign up to be a walk-in hunting.
I mean, there's a lot of walk-in hunting and stuff in western Kansas underneath the turbines, and they don't have any issues with it. And I struggle with that one. But I guess, yeah, it'd probably be the best to just go through it one by one and say yes or no on the distance and figure out what we can scratch off or add or
But to
whatever.
address Brad's point, should we just decide on the distance? Is that 3-mile ring, is that appropriate?
I think that's our starting point. And if we say no to one item, then let's talk about that distance. What is that distance?
Now, I might just interject really quick. The 3 miles from city limits and airports is certainly within the wheelhouse of reasonable of what I've experienced across the state. Reno County's failed wind farm had 3 different airfields close within the project boundary. During that testimony, it was, I think everybody generally accepted that the wind turbines, when they are flowing, can create turbulence up to 2 miles, 2 to 3 miles. So 3 miles from cities is something that we've instituted in Brown County, I believe, in Nemaha County, around the city of Sabetha. So that's something that I would say is fairly common in general regulations on wind farms.
So first one on the list is 15,840 feet from any incorporated city limits.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
Are we good with that?
Yes.
The second one is public parks. Do we have any public parks outside of the city limits?
I mean, like the park used to be.
The
We
reservoir.
have
Well,
the
not
lake,
really park.
I mean, the lake and the reservoir are considered recreational areas.
What are we thinking on public park? Yes or no on the 3 mile?
I'd say cross it off, it's covered in the incorporated city limit item. You're right.
Do we have consensus on that? I'm
The
looking at
public
it the
park
other
is
end.
incorporated into the city limits?
Most of them.
This
Yeah.
isn't. We're not in the city limits here.
The 3 mile
You're covered.
radius, I
3
think.
miles.
From the city. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
What we're saying on public parks. Most of the public parks, I think, are within a city limit. So what's the consensus? Do we take the public parks off? Chief and Brandy?
Yeah, if they're primarily in the city limits.
Yeah, I'd scratch that one.
Okay. Public hunting area.
How do you define that?
can those move? I think the walking areas can change from time to time, can't they?
Yep, it's an annual with the state.
Yeah, so it would be in
We
there.
have very little walk-in hunting in this county. What?
I think it's an aspect of it.
Yeah, but we don't.
But it would entice people, but there's that big restriction.
I don't know how you would regulate that if it changes.
Cross it off.
Once it opens up, yeah. Okay. All right, church. Many churches are within city limits, however, there are some that are not. Alexander Wall and Tabor and West Branch are not.
And then the same is non-participating.
1640?
No, that's more than
Oh, 2640? Yeah, treat it like a residential at 2640?
I agree.
I could go with that. Chase?
Yeah, I mean, that would be already, we don't have to name that one specifically because it would be captured in the non-participating structure. Or,
So, so what are we doing? We're
scratching it.
2640 or scratching it?
Well, it's already caught at 2640 in a previous.
And then, what do you mean?
In the non-participating, we already have setbacks determined. So therefore, we would just scratch church from.
Yep.
Can you put churches in non-participating, put the word there?
It's not a residential.
So church isn't a residential, so it wouldn't.
Could you add churches behind residential structure? In item C?
Or could we say churches and residential structures?
Let's finish what about the school and, let's get to the school and cemetery and then see if maybe any of these coincide and it can just be added as another
Yeah.
bullet point.
So I think Center might be the only school that had a different, that wasn't captured by the 3 mile radius.
Is there a turbine within 3 miles of that school up there already?
It's in the Flint Hills moratorium.
That's true.
So it's either-
And then there's the Cottonwood Grove School.
So what are we doing on church?
We're gonna come back to
Good
those.
catch that.
We're gonna get through the rest of these and see
Okay,
if we get a definition that encompasses church.
You got the Holden churches,
What was that?
the Holden church.
Close.
We'll come back to churches here. Schools, we're on schools. So most schools are probably gonna be within the city limits as well,
We only have two that aren't.
2 that are. Do we wanna put a minimum of the,
2640.
There's a bullet point back here on the other.
which one?
City schools, airports in there, city schools, airports.
Where do that?
Still falls in there. So I think we would at least want the evacuation zone plus 50 with the school. We certainly don't want,
Would there be any reservation of just leaving schools, airports, and city limits all on this one? Is there any reservation of that, just keep it simple? Or do you want
School
this
at 2640.
2640?
are we good for 2640 on schools?
We don't want to protect our kids.
2640.
Okay, airports and airfields. I think Russ, you were talking.
We were leaving that at
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. And cemeteries.
Strike it.
We don't want to give some buffer.
I said yes. Yes.
What do you think?
Fall within the minimum setbacks defined earlier.
Yeah, it's already encompassed by the road setback.
Non-participating.
Non-participating.
Right.
Yeah.
Would we have to clarify the non-participating?
Yeah, it's non-participating.
They're not gonna speak up for themselves.
You hope not.
If I'm in there, I won't care. But Keith made a good point, most of them are along the county roads, you know, and would be caught with a county road setback.
And there's quite a few within the city limits. I did locate all of them on a map. If you guys wanna see it, I have drawn out maps of where they're all at. There's quite a few within the city limits. I would say probably 50% fall within a 2-mile buffer of the city limits.
So then it's already covered in.
Scratch it. Just so it's covered.
On that one.
But isn't it covered by a non-participating? Because surely the cemetery boards would be able to decide if they're gonna be a participant, right?
Did we call that out?
I just don't.
They're a
think they-
landowner.
Yeah.
Would they decide whether they're in or out?
Will they be consulted?
I assume so.
They would have to be.
They're deeded properties.
So cemetery would fall under the.
They're gonna decide on their own. They don't need our help.
Cemetery would fall where?
Non-participating.
Under D, 1640.
And they may decide they wanna be participating.
Okay, are we good on the cemetery?
We're gonna do cemetery, we're gonna strike it from here, and we're gonna do it under D, that has the 1640.
Okay, what was that?
Just for clarification, so we're removing cemeteries from F and adding cemeteries to D along with non-participating properties.
Yes, that's what we were discussing. Okay, let's come back to churches. We didn't finish churches.
We're gonna add that on to the end of the residential structure, right? Residential structure.
Is that an option
That's an option.
to add it to the residential structure?
Or just list it specifically.
We would add it,
Yes, that's
we
fine.
would specify it.
Yeah. You'd wanna add another line in F and G and.
For churches and schools being 2640, just add a different, that would be the new G.
Yeah. So churches, schools, and cemeteries would fall under the new G or something for non-participating residents.
Cemetery.
Did I say cemetery?
Yeah, cemeteries.
Cemetery 1640.
Non-participating property line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Church and schools, 2640.
Okay, so let's go back, because we had a lot on that one. City limits was 3 miles, 15,840 feet.
Along with airports and airfields.
Yep.
Yep.
Public parks and public hunting areas was striped, cemeteries was 1640, and churches and schools 2640.
Cemetery was moved to item D, and schools and churches would be the new item G.
Okay. Ready to move on?
Yep.
All right. Next one. No turbines shall be located closer than or greater 1,320 feet or 2.5 times total height of any other turbines.
What's the current?
I don't think there is.
I don't think we have setbacks between turbines.
That's up to their
Yeah.
development plan, right?
Yeah.
They have to
They
do
must
their
have a
research.
stamp.
Yeah, that's
They modeled that through the city.
scratch it.
I'd be in favor of scratching it, because they're gonna do their study on it.
Looking at the rest of the contract agreement down here for Mike, Chase, Brandy. We good on that, scratching it?
Yes.
Okay. H, accessory towers such as MET towers and or radar towers more than 50 feet in height shall conform to all setbacks above that we've been discussing. the objection to this?
I'm good with that one.
Okay. And the last paragraph in this section that we tabled, for the purpose of the above requirements, a residential structure shall include a primary residence, garage either attached to or detached, which primarily services the residence. Any secondary residential structures intended for habitation for any period of time. Participating residential structure is one of which exists on the same land under lease or contract for the placement of a turbine by the WEX developer. Non-participating residential structures is one which exists on lands not covered by a lease or contract for the placement of a turbine by the WEX developer.
And then that's where I had mentioned previously adding a sentence that talks about, the developer being able to move a non-participating property owner into a participating if they get consent, a signed consent.
All right. We're through that. Do we want to take a quick break and come back and take the next steps? Okay, 5 minutes.
I just encourage the board to not have a discussion about any of these topics during that break.
We've got 5 minutes, folks.
I can go to my bathroom.
Who? Ken? Oh, hurry.
I've been looking in there this week. Need to look. They come along good on the weekend.
So hello.
Last night, house caught fire, and then one in Pilsen caught fire. Well, I think it was heaters and old plastic boards that we had for years. And it's connected to that store, that main store, that's like right on that, it burned down on the corner. Yep, that it burned the whole residential area. She got out safe. Okay, but yeah, it burned the whole residential area. And then there was one in Lost Springs last night, that house caught fire.
Okay, let's get going again here. All right, so I think we got through what we tabled last time. So I think the next step will be public comment. All right, focus, I would say focus on the setback. Yes, we want to limit so we're going to open up public comment. We want to limit it to the setback discussion. I will run a timer. We have a lot of people. I have a feeling we're having a lot of comments. So I am going to limit it to the hard 2 minutes. So when you get your 2 minutes, please step down and let the next person come. When you do speak, please come to the front and
Hey,
state your
Josh,
name.
just real quick, sorry to interrupt you. I don't think we can limit the public comment just to those setbacks. And the reason why is we didn't have the
Oh,
public
that's
comment.
true.
The whole chapter's over.
That's true. Good point.
So we'll be making decisions based on the entire
Good point.
discussion.
Okay,
Sorry.
so I stand corrected. You can comment on all of Article 27 that we discussed last time and the setbacks today. We'll limit it to 2 minutes, so the floor is open. Please come forward and state your name.
Stand right in the middle here.
Yep.
Stand right
You
here.
Stand over there if you want.
My name's Evan Yoder. My wife and I live in East Branch Township, on a farm my great-grandfather moved to in 1904. I'm here to implore the Planning and Zoning Commission to approve the Article 27 revisions as are stated. I know we've made some changes already, as they have been proposed. I know that no one wants to live close to high-power transmission lines, potential fiberglass or ice bombardments, blade flicker, noise pollution, or unsightly oil-stained or damaged turbines. What future economic development opportunities are we squandering down the road? As turbines fall into disrepair and energy companies embrace new technologies, for energy production, they will abandon these now 500, not 700-foot monstrosities they built. Who will be charged with their cleanup? We all know. The taxpayers, the future landowners, and most importantly, my grandchildren, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren, because these leases go for 90 years. Marion County has 2 wind farms. Enough is enough. Let those experiments play out while exploring other methods of economic development in the southwestern part of the county. I've known some of the leasees for over half a century. They are good, God-fearing people. I also believe highly in personal property rights. But when your personal property, your right, affects someone else's property adversely, it's all right for those people to stand up and say, no, we don't want this. Again, I urge the Planning and Zoning Commission to approve those Article 27 revisions, because once it's gone, it's gone. Thank you.
Next.
Linda Peters. I want to address 3 critical thoughts as I watch the Planning and Zoning Commission tonight. The first, the individuals that sit on this board have been sworn in to provide safety, look out for the welfare, and protect the citizens of Marion County. That is what your oath basically says. The decisions that you make need to do that. It isn't your personal feeling, as they should be set aside. I understand that some people on this board takes very serious that each person should have the right to do with his property that he or she wants to, but at what cost to the neighbors? In Marshall County, Kansas, a damaged wind turbine scattered debris to non-participating landowners more than 2,500 feet away. Scattered debris almost 2 years ago and no cleanup yet. Who is protecting those individuals' rights? I have pictures of the pieces strewn through the grass with no way to clean it up. The neighbors can't hay it or turn cattle on it because there's fiberglass all through that piece of that grass. Who's going to help them recover from their loss? What will happen when these pieces finally reach our rivers and streams, our wetlands that we're talking about? Now, they're little streams, but eventually they go into bigger streams. What are we going to do here? What are we doing here? I came to the last Planning and Zoning meeting concerning the resolution. A lot of time was spent talking about how to make the wind farm accountable for the blinking lights. After very much discussion, I felt it was the consensus that we would have to live with them. The Planning and Zoning Commission then turned to discussion that some members thought the overlays were way too confining on the resolution and wouldn't allow potential wind farms from coming into the county. Again, what are we doing here? It seems like a no-brainer that if we can't control how the wind farms that we currently have in the county treat Marion County, why would we loosen up the overlays for them to have more issues?
Ma'am, we're at 2 minutes.
This Planning and Zoning Board needs to focus on the wind farms that we have in Marion County and focus on holding them accountable for the motors leaking, broken blades, and blinking lights, and not worrying whether the overlays are too confining. Again, your duty is to provide safety, welfare, and protect the
Ma'am, your 2
citizens
minutes
of
is
Marion
up.
County.
Thank you.
Please do that. Thank you.
Have a handout, pass around. You may have had this already before. So I wanted to share it again.
State your name, sorry.
Okay. I'm Quentin Gould, live in West Branch area. Passed out overlay about trespass zoning, basically how wind turbines can infringe on the rights of neighboring areas. So wind turbine manufacturers publish a safety zone. That actually is for a smaller wind turbine than with what's in Marion County. It's basically 4 times the height of the wind turbine. So a 500 wind turbine, 500-foot wind turbine should be a 2,000 safety zone. It's not an evacuation zone. It's published by the wind company, the wind manufacturer, about the safety that maintenance workers don't go in that area unless it's shut down. So why would we want these operating, you know, and infringing on other people? So when the safety zone extends on neighboring property, this creates a trespass zone on the neighbor's property. The trespass zone is an area that the safety zone extends in the neighboring property. So I'm glad that we've extended the setbacks from the property line. I think it should be larger. You said 1640? Okay. So, this also, the safety zone is also ice throw. I mean, because these shed ice. So,
Thank you.
I would like to give my 2 minutes to my husband so he can read what's written here.
okay. So, hi, my name is Quentin Gore. My wife and our younger 2 children live in rural Hillsborough. I'm speaking today to share my concerns for my family's safety regarding setbacks at our home. Our 120-year-old home is approximately 200 feet from our property line. Wind turbine manufacturer published a safety zone for their maintenance personnel to stay out until the turbine is stopped because of the possibility of injury, including injury from ice throw. The example passed around shows a 1,640-foot safety zone for a Vestas wind turbine. When the safety zone extends in the neighboring property, this creates this trespass zone on the neighbor's property. This trespass zone is an area that the safety zone extends in the neighboring property regardless if they signed the lease with the wind farm. I want to share how this impacts my family. To the south of our property is a field where the wind turbine could possibly go with our current regulations. My family could knowingly be put in danger. If a wind turbine is put up south of us, my family would be in a danger zone. My house would be in a danger zone. The safety zone works out to be 4 times the height of the wind turbine. So a 500-foot wind turbine would be a 2,000-foot bare minimum.
That's 2 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bertha Hebert, we live in the south end of the county in West Branch Township. And after reading comments and seeing pictures of family in Marshall County that lives close to wind farms, we can see how much damage is done and how it's destroying land and communities. A number of the people we noticed have already signed leases in our area, do not even live in our township. Some live out of state, so they would not be bothered at all by the daily destroying of our land. Wind farms are taking away our rights, ruining our farm ground with all the plastics and oil leaks and ice throws and things. what our livelihoods and the future for our children and grandchildren. And once the wind turbines are in place, there is no turning back. The wind farm companies will do as they please and couldn't care less who they hurt. And then our son Nate Hebert was here but had to leave, but he has an airstrip. And for safety reasons, he really would like a 5-mile radius. Small planes can flip so easily with those turbines, the turbulence that it causes.
Anybody else?
I'm Van Peters, live west of Hillsborough. Now I lost my deal. Might run out of time real quick. See my phone. Okay, first I have a question. At what turbine height was the evacuation zone set? Is the current 1,640-foot distance adequate for modern turbines? Is it sufficient for a 500-foot turbine on fire in Marion County when the wind is blowing 50 miles per hour? Would any of you be comfortable with that distance if your home was downwind in these conditions? Despite what the lobbyists may be telling you, the proposed setbacks you have discussed this evening are not stringent or adequate for a non-participant. Here's some perspective. Wheeler County, Nebraska has a 5-mile setback from non-participating residences. Marshall County, Kansas has a 1.5-mile setback from non-participating residents and 1 mile from a non-participating property line. Lincoln County, South Dakota has a 1-mile setback from a non-participating residence. Woodbury County, Iowa has a 1-mile setback from a non-participating residence. The state of Vermont has a 1-mile setback from residences. I commend the county officials in these counties and states for prioritizing the health, safety, and general welfare of their citizens. The 1/2-mile setback currently proposed from non-participating residents is nothing. The setbacks, a 1,640-foot setback with a 24-foot, 2,400-foot ice throw, doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alicia Wiseman. I live out by Gospel. And so much reading and looking at all this stuff. But one of the things that I want to address is property values. According to the Marion County, Kansas Comprehensive Plan updated in 2017 for the future development, it says that you guys are supposed to, people who invest in housing within the rural areas of Marion County should be afforded protections from outside impacts that might reduce the value of their investment. These things don't might reduce the value, they do reduce the value. Through the judicious application of appropriate zoning and subdivisions. Not only does a mile not protect my property value, it makes it almost unsellable. I would really like to see you revisit non-participating. All the other ones, sure. I mean, if you're participating, I don't care. But if you're not participating and you don't wanna see these things, we need more protection. 2 miles doesn't protect a non-participating. There's been people who haven't even been able to sell their homes after those things come in. So I would like to see some more protections for non-participating residents. And I don't think it would hurt to revisit it.
Anybody else?
My name is Jim Truex, my wife is Carrie.
We live at 939 Indigo, that's 9.5 miles south of Hillsborough on the 13-mile road. I'd like to just bring up the topic of population density. Within a half mile of my place, there's 4 residents. Within a mile, we have 7. And if you just extend it a little bit more, we probably got 9. And what the lady just said about the property values, we've had a neighbor that tried to sell her house. People find out about the wind farms and that she couldn't sell it. So anyway, the other thing is that corridor, what I call a 13-mile corridor. There's people moving in and out, but there's people moving in, living in Wichita. They're building new houses out there. There would be much more people moving in if they were sure that there wouldn't be wind farms. Thank you very much, and thank you for being so patient with all the people and taking all the time to work through this.
Any other?
I'm Evan Esau, Mayor of Gossel. We've talked about this a few years ago as a city council, but I put some words together today. So as a group working through the Article 27 zoning regulations during this current moratorium, the city of Gossel, we've done a survey, and we'd like at least 5 miles. There's more. People would take just keeping them out of the county. But what we're concerned about is our water security. Gossel relies on municipal wells that are located a mile from our city limits, approximately. We're on the eastern edge of the High Plains Aquifer, water is important for us, so we want to protect that. We want to make sure that specifically PFAS, forever chemicals, BPA for blades don't reach our municipal supply. Also, we're trying to grow. We want to make Gossel a great community. We want to attract families and to come. We have a good school system, and we believe that this having wind farms in that area is going to detract from bringing other people coming into town, as well as lowering property values. And we also believe in the public safety. We're already in the corner. It's hard enough to get emergency response there. If you have the radars being tampered with by the turbines, that's just going to make things harder for us to get in certain situations. And like I said, we did a survey of our residents. 75% of our residents approximately supported a prohibition of turbines in close proximity, and 70% of those people didn't want them within 10 miles of Gossel. So thank you for all your time talking through this, thinking through all of the implications 100 years from now. It's a large topic, and nobody's going to be happy, but we got to make a compromise.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else?
I'm Bill Dutton. I think my neighbor across the road signed a lease, and I'm with you guys. I don't think he should be able to do that without getting both neighbors on both sides. Why should, because he wants him, no, why should I?
All right, anybody else?
Well, I'm Kyle Funk, born and raised in Gossel, lived there my whole life, have actual business there in Gossel. I think I know most of you guys in the room here. If you'd never see a city like that would zone the entire place for industrial use. I mean, that'd be the biggest fool move that a place could do. I mean, as far as I look at it, Marion County, I mean, we need to be smart about how we zone our county as well. We've got 2 wind farms in the county already. Minnow, Liberty, East and West Branch townships are very populated. There's a lot of growth going on in our end of the county. I don't think that growth would be going on if there's a wind farm there, and I know that firsthand by the feedback from the community and all the people in on the Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of different reasons I don't wanna live in, I'll just be flat honest, I don't wanna live around them. I stayed around, I built my business, we built our place, and also because I love the people, I love Marion County, and I love the area. If there's a wind farm there, I would not have done it. So, there's probably more out there like me that wouldn't have stuck around if there was a wind farm. I guess that's all I really have to say, is just from a population density standpoint, we need part of our county to still be to still have an area where we can promote growth and promote people coming in. Gossel's, I'm on the school board, and our enrollment's really held its own and done better in, percentage-wise than any of the other school districts in the county. And I think it's because we're a growing area of the county, and people are continuing to do it. So, I don't think we want a wind farm in our end of the county. If you guys want them in the other ends, that's fine, it's your business, and I support you guys doing it in the end of the county, but where we're at, I don't think it's good for us.
My name's Randall M. Whiteson. There I would live between the second wind farm and the one that's supposedly being proposed. First of all, I hardly know where to start. Doing what you're doing here, I would say is at least a step in the right direction. But I find it really hypocritical that we have one set of setbacks for what you call a rural road or a county road, and another set for what you call a state or federal highway. I do know that if I'm driving down a dirt road at 90 miles an hour, a highway patrolman sees me, he's gonna give me the same speeding ticket on a dirt road as he is a state or federal highway. And I sure will ask him, why would you give me a ticket on a dirt road? There's nobody here. He's gonna say it's not safe. That means it's not safe if there's either an ice throw or debris throw along that road where I'm gonna be farming. Yeah, I probably believe in property rights as much as anybody. But if it does hurt somebody else too much, we probably need to draw the line. I mean, there's even certain of the bars that you're not allowed to have within 1,500 feet of a residential area. I would argue a wind turbine is much more detrimental, visually wise and health wise than a bar. That's just an example. Like I say,
okay, last call.
My name's Scott Smith. I live here in Marion County. I moved here in 2019 from California, so I have a little different spin on it. In California, they've been out there for 30 years, windmill farms. The difference is they're put on public land, not on private land. So what ended up happening is when they reach their lifespan and the companies walk away because they have this environmental mess that they have to clean up, they walk away. Then who gets to pay for it there is everybody who lives in California, the taxpayer. Here, private landowners are gonna be stuck with that. And they will fail, and if you don't believe that they will, just look at the San Gorgonio Mountains near Palm Springs. There was a wind farm there that failed. And then the Tehachapi's, there's a big wind farm there in a beautiful part of the mountains, on the mountainside. And look at the failure there. But California being what it is, they haven't learned, so I just looked it up today, and they actually have started developing more wind farms in other areas, because they didn't learn from their history, I guess. I just say protect our groundwater, protect your properties, and because nobody's gonna help at the end of it, when it's time to clean it up.
Okay, one more. Okay, 2 minutes. This will be the last one, and we will close public comment.
Okay, well, once again, well, you all know who I am. Well, I kind of forgot where I left off, but I really do agree with what Mr. Smith said. We do have to do all we can to protect what we got. I think there's been too much research already that would prove that wind farms are at least somewhat detrimental. Probably we don't know how much, we probably won't know for another 40 years. But we already have 2 of them here in the county already. One of you guys had brought a point, maybe it was you, that we really need to be really careful when we make setbacks big enough, because otherwise you might be opening up the county for another lawsuit. And I'm saying that could very easily happen.
All right, we'll close public comment now and move on. Is there any discussion we need to have? And discussion, go ahead, Les.
I'm just gonna throw, I believe Gossel Mayor, or the representative from Gossel, makes a good point. Public water supplies. So KDHE does have setbacks for certain land uses related to, public water supplies. I believe it's a half a mile of any type of industrial land use. So just for consideration of adding, we list all these other different land uses. I think perhaps for your consideration, we struck the original G and then added back churches and schools at a 226/40 setback.
Yes.
Within that, you could add public water supplies, or at whatever setback distance that obviously the planning commission feels necessary. But if we want to plug public water supply into one of these setback categories, I think that would be advisable.
So theirs is at it's already at a half mile based on KDHE?
Do we wanna consider a statement that's pointing towards KDHE? At least we have something in the regulations, the zoning, set to be consistent with
Was a half mile big enough?
We could add language certainly to make that distance comply with KDHE's requirement. like other KDHE requirements, we can't go above and beyond. This is a little bit more unique. We're not gonna have the Kansas Livestock Association after us, like they did for CAFO, so.
Is half a mile enough?
Well, does KDHE take into account also like rural water towers and the lines from the rural water towers?
Right,
So that,
your on-site private ag, irrigation systems aren't going to comply with that. We have a few industrial.
I think he's talking about like rural water
like
towers.
rural water towers and the.
It would be the supply, it would be their well house,
Okay.
not their towers. Towers are part of the contained system. It would be the actual wells, the well locations. And there are certain large industrial companies, there are 3 or 4 of them in Sedgwick County. It's a private system, they have a water well for their private manufacturing processes, but it's large enough to where it is a KDHE controlled and licensed public supply.
I would be in favor of putting in some wording around that to set a setback of 2640, consistent with the others.
Where are the water supplies? I know Peabody and Marion both get it out of the reservoir.
That's true. So, I can't answer that specifically, but that data is, available, through the Kansas, it's called DAS. It's the state's repository for GIS data. So KDHE's data, where these wells are, where contamination sites are, similar to the National Wetlands Inventory, it is mapped online. That data is available. Therefore, a developer would be able to find all the public water supplies within their project scope if they're looking at a certain area. That would be something that they would have to account for, just exactly like having to account for the locations of schools, churches, wetlands, and things of that nature.
And those go through that concurrent process when they do their environmental impact studies.
What about private wells?
That would not fall under a public water supply. And private wells are controlled or at least regulated by the state at a different, lower standard.
What about where our water comes from through the aquifer?
It would be the point source potential of contamination at the wellhead, is my understanding.
I understand what you're saying, I'm just asking.
Okay. What do you guys think? Put in, add it?
At KDHE, like sure it follows KDHE guidelines. I'm fine with that.
So, yeah, I'm going to ensure we're following KDHE guidelines. All right. Any other discussion?
I just had one clarification on the schools. Are there any schools that are, other than Center, that's not inside city?
There's Cutler Schools.
But that's close to Durham?
Yeah.
It's within 3 miles of Durham?
So I think over the 2 miles.
2 miles of it?
Yeah, it meets that 3 mile.
Yeah, but that's make sure these 3 miles from there then.
That's the only second thought that I had was just the school. And then centers in the Flint Hills.
So I think the question was, should it be 3 miles from the school itself? Because if the school's 2 miles outside of town, then it's only a mile from Mitchell.
I think school should be very protected.
Schools-
If it takes 3 miles, then.
School can't be kept in the 3 miles.
That's my only second thought of anything that we discussed. I got kids in school and I just think about that.
Okay.
I don't know, that's open for discussion,
Yeah.
I'm not, it's whatever.
Thoughts on that, on the schools, keeping them in the 3 mile
Yes.
max? Dave?
No,
center of the school 3 miles, because the school might be 2.5 miles from the city limits. So it's set back in all directions of the school.
From the school property.
Yes, at the school property. And some of that setback may go within the city.
Yeah, it'd be an
Overlap.
Overlap, yeah. The one second thought I came back to was on the airfields and airports. Should we extend that to 5 miles? I do have a son that's a pilot, and they have to stay 2,000 feet away from those things, objects. So when they're coming into land, height-wise, and 3 miles out for some of these airfields.
Yeah, the approach 3 miles wouldn't be enough.
Yeah.
What does FAA say about distance on that?
Obstructions. It's a,
It's a three-dimensional, it's a
It's-
three-dimensional
it's-
wedge.
yeah.
It's glide paths, and then they set height limits. So if you're
At a
100
certain
feet,
altitude.
you can't have, 200 feet, you can't have anything. 0, no buildings. And then, from 3 to 500 feet, let's say you're limited at 35 feet in height. And the further away you go, and it's a greater distance on the ends of the airport, and the side slopes are much sharper.
Surely glide path of the airplane with an engine out condition, I believe, is probably going to dictate.
So really glide paths don't, to me, come into much impact on airports or airstrips quite like the wind disturbance would. I think wind disturbance created by, the turbulence created by turbines have a greater potential than we've heard during the first northern CUP for the North Field. We heard some crop dusting pilots talk about no big deal. Well, I don't think we want to take crop dusters and the mentality of a crop duster into play. I know if I'm piloting a personal aircraft, I'm going to want as minimal distractions as possible. I'm not looking for those distractions. So as far as that concerns, I don't think we're really dealing with the glide slopes as much as just we're dealing with turbulence. The ability to generate turbulence. And what distance that is, I can't. Like I said, my examples have been 2 to 3 miles in other locations, in other jurisdictions. If that needs to be established at whatever rate the planning commission recommends.
I would propose 5 miles.
I agree.
Mike, any thoughts? Anita, Chase?
I don't have any opposition to 5 miles myself.
I'm not against it.
I don't know why we're revisiting this. We've already established the 3 miles we've been drawing.
Go back through all of them.
Yeah. why are
Because we listened to public comment and we need to revisit it. That's why.
I don't know what the 5 miles is based on, so I can't agree with it. If there's rationale with 5 miles, it's an arbitrary number, it's an arbitrary number. I don't have anything that says 5 miles is the right number. Maybe 6, maybe 2.5, I don't have the data. So,
I've talked to pilots, that's where I'm coming.
Would it be better to add wording in there to include it, so it's following whatever the FAA regulations was?
I can't really say for certain whether they have regulations on distance from turbines, the FAA that is. You have to remember how all the government structure above us at the state and federal level want as much renewable energy developed as possible. So you're not, since day one of doing this type stuff, don't look to Topeka for help. And we certainly understand that the federal government doesn't care.
We do have a registered airfield in this branch. So that's confirmed.
Your son said 5 miles. Can you elaborate?
I would say 5 miles.
And can you elaborate?
He said for safety reasons, because the turbulence from those blades carries a lot. Little planes, a lot of small planes go in and out of his airstrip. Grass airstrip.
He has
had the US Army helicopter land there, you know, just for a practice. You gotta think about it, 5 miles would be something.
Okay. Yes or no, 5 miles?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No.
We got 1, 2, 3 no's, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yeses. Let's go with 5 miles. Okay. Now we need to move on. Any other discussion before I close? I'm gonna close the discussion. Okay.
Do we need to look back at non-participating landowners? Setbacks.
What was the discussion there?
Alicia addressed it.
Property value.
I don't know that we open that back up.
No?
What about the safety zone?
Safety zone,
1640 is based on a
Smaller turbine.
okay. Now, Russ, I got a question for you. Do we want to go back through and read the changes we made before we make any motions to vote on this? Read the changes that we made today, because what we made last time, I don't know if there was any changes to that, so we're taking.
So whatever changes we actually agreed on December 4th are within this
Yes.
newly issued. So
Yes.
motion to approve, so if one wants to make a motion to approve per our December 4th, more or less the original version that we had under consideration for a little bit over a year. Then we can just reference this document because it's all in there.
Right.
So a motion to recommend approval of Article 27 with the changes that we discussed tonight, I think we should just go through and elaborate that we would recommend to the Board of County Commissioners approval of Article 27 as stated in this version of the article, January 26th, with the following modifications to A, to B, C, D, and we can work through those since it's fairly cumbersome.
Yes.
But yes, I would state that we're recommending this document together with these changes to this document.
Okay.
Just to clarify.
Do we have a motion?
Well, should we clarify the changes that we made today first and then have the motion?
Sorry.
Because,
Yes.
yeah, we just need to state very clearly the changes that we made to number 2, A through H, or A through G. And then we would entertain a motion.
That works. Let's do that. So A, the turbine shall be located closer than the greater of, and we added the wording here for rural, state and federal highway. For the rural, it was the tower height plus 100. And remind me what we did state and federal highway.
I think we should start with the cap height of 500 foot.
Yep.
And then that would be A? Or how would you structure that, Russ?
I'm getting it.
Yep, no, you take your time.
Yeah, I think that's probably just as good as any place to put it as A.
A.
All turbines developed within Marion County shall be limited to a height of 500 feet, or 550 feet. Tip to base.
Okay, so that's A. new B, does that become the roads?
Yeah, then B would be, no turbine shall be located closer, than a quarter mile from the
State and federal highways.
from state and federal highways. That same standard will become C for county roads at 550
And railways.
and railways.
And D,
The new D will be, no turbines shall be located closer than 2640 from any non-participant.
No. It'd be, it's the old, you skipped one.
we're on participating residential.
So it'd be height plus 50. So it'd be 550 foot from participating residential structure. And then E would be 2640.
Which one are you on?
The old C would be the new E.
Yep.
It'd be 2640 from non-participating residential structures. The old D would be the new F, 1640 from non-participating property line
And cemeteries.
and cemeteries.
G would just simply replace the 1350 from Wetland.
So the old E would become G
At 550.
at 550 feet instead of the 1320.
The old F would be, no turbine shall be located closer than 3 miles, 15,840, from schools or from city limits, and schools, I guess is the only thing we're left with there. The old G now will be churches, be a distance of 2640.
The following the KDHE, right, we're gonna.
And then the water supply setback.
Should we hit that?
That's J.
Should you hit the airplanes
Okay.
first, airfield?
Yeah, we could hit the air,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
So then the
Airfield,
registered airports and airstrips, 5 miles would be the I. And then churches and public water schools would become J. At a distance of 2,640 feet.
yep. And then hit the water street.
were you,
Oh, that, you don't wanna include that in.
Yeah, cemetery
Okay.
is 62.
So sorry, churches and public water supplies
Okay, yeah.
at 2,640 would be
Yeah.
item J. And then the old H, because we're omitting the old item G
Yep.
entirely, so the old H would become K.
Where did we fit public water? Was it under J?
J with churches at 2,640 feet.
That was it.
Yeah, I think we agreed on KDHEs.
KDHE.
Yeah, KDHE.
Okay,
Got it.
so keep J as churches.
Churches.
Yeah.
And then make K, KDHE adherence for public water supplies.
Whatever they say is what we use.
Adherence.
L
That
would
would be the old
be
H.
the old H.
Where did cemeteries, did they get picked up?
Cemeteries are in F, the new F, which is
New
the
F,
old
okay.
B.
We've added cemeteries to non-participating property.
To the 16th?
It would be 6/40. Yep.
And Josh, bear with me, one more thing, to add another sentence to the last line of that paragraph that starts, for the purpose of the above requirements, we were going to add that if the developer, obtains, consent, written consent from a non-participating property owner, then they would consider participating property.
Yep.
And that's all the changes we had for tonight. And I think really,
Yeah.
we were pretty tight
Yeah.
on agreement on all the other stuff that we did on December 4th.
Yeah, we hammered through it, we voted that.
Did we cap the height at 500 or 550?
Yeah.
500.
500? I wrote down 500 tip.
I wrote it, okay.
500 tip to base, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Those are the changes we discussed tonight. So coming back to, do we have a motion to take what we discussed last time in this document in combination with what we discussed tonight and those changes? To approve them as a recommendation.
I'd make a motion to take Article 27 with the previous revision from the December meeting and tonight's meeting, and put that up for approval for the county commissioners to approve.
Okay. Do you have a motion, do we have a second? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against say nay.
Could we get a roll call on that, please?
Okay. So,
Let's start.
okay. I'm a yes.
Yes.
No.
Okay, hang on just 1 second, sorry.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that's 9 yeses, 1 no, motion passes.
8 and 1.
8-1?
Yep.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, we don't have Delbert here and we don't have.
That's right. 8-1, sorry. Okay. I would remind everybody, these are recommendations to the county commissioners. They have yet to go to the county commission to be fully approved. So let your commissioner know what you think when they review this. Okay, do we have any other business?
So this will, just a moment, I'm just going to count the days. So there will be a 14-day protest period from the conclusion of this meeting until the protest period ends. Oh, that's right, sorry. No. Hold on. So February 17th, which would be a Tuesday because the 16th is holiday, would be the next commission meeting available for them to have this discussion.
Okay.
That's subject to their agenda, obviously.
Okay, any other business? All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We got a second?
Second.
All right. The motion is the second one. Anybody in favor say aye? All right. Nay?
exciting going on this week? Weekend? Go to where? Oh, yeah. Is it just slot machines? They don't have any table games, do they?
I'm not sure.
See, I like table games.